Today, we're going to take acetate sheets from Spotlight, some foam and cardstock from Officeworks to create this awesome cake topper. So, let's make this. So the materials we'll need today are a light grip, strong grip, and standard grip mat. You can get these from any of your suppliers. I've got one from HTV, Cricut, and Nikapa. Then I'm going to use the Cricut branded clear acetate sheets. I know that they're going to be the right thickness for the machine. Then I've got some foam sheets that I got from Officeworks. These are 2 millimeters thick, which means I know it's going to go under the machine without any issues. I've got some masking tape that I'm going to use to hold that foam down. Then from Spotlight, I've got a couple of things that I could put inside. I've got the Crafter's Choice Star Glitter Pack, as well as sprinkles for your cake. Then I've got Kmart cardstock, glitter cardstock, as well as the Frenchville cardstock paper from Spotlight. I also am going to use a hot glue gun, some craft glue, and some foam tape. We're going to start our design in Canva today. So we're going to go in and create a design, and we're going to, as most of the time, we're going to start with a square 12 by 12 inch design. First thing I want to do is find a cupcake. So I'm going to click on Elements on the left-hand side and type in cupcake. Now I'm looking for a free cupcake image that has thick outer lines. I don't want any fill. So you can see this one here. I like it, but I think it's got a little bit too much black down the bottom for what I want to do. But I do like the thickness of the icing lines. This one here, this is going to be the one I think I'm going to choose. So the thickness of the lines here will be really good for the Cricut to cut, and also should provide us a little bit of space to glue. Now the next thing is we're just going to type in very simply happy birthday. Now you could customize this to anything. You could have a year, you could have someone's name, you could have happy retirement, doesn't matter, but I'm just going to do a happy birthday one since we've got the cupcake. And I'm going to find a script font. Now I want a script font because I just think it looks nicer on these cake toppers. It kind of gives it a little bit of specialness. And also, the other great thing about a script font, when you're cutting cardstock in particular, it comes out as one piece or nearly one piece. So you can see how Halleman has got the H is separate and the B is separate. But when I go back up to apricots, it actually is all connected. So it means when I cut it out, I lift it and I don't have to align anything when I'm trying to stick it back down onto the offset, because we will do an offset for this. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with apricots here. I really like it. It's a pretty nice stock standard font, but here's a great time for you to stop and just scroll through. Remember to choose one that doesn't have any extra lines through it in the font. So any kind of brush script causes a bit of a problem, because when the Cricut is going to cut all of those different spots. I'm going to put happy and birthday on 2 separate pages here. The reason being is because when I get into Design Space, I think I might want to move them around and maybe manipulate where they sit. So I've just separated them out. So I'm going to download these 3 pages. So when I go up to share, I want to download them as PNG files. And as I do say, it would be better if there was a transparent background. And if you've got the Pro version, definitely do that. But for us, it's fine, especially because these are very simple images. So we'll be fine. Then when we open them up, we've got to extract them. So we've got a zip file, double click if you are an Apple user, right click and extract if you are a Window user. Now I am in Design Space and we're going to upload our images. I'm going to upload happy and birthday first because this is pretty straightforward. So we're just going to remove any of the background. So we're getting rid of everything around the happy, as well as all of the little gaps between the A, the P, and the Y. Click on that preview single layer to make sure that you have got all of those spots. Name your image, so then you could come back and use it again. And then do the same for birthday. So I've just resized the happy and the birthday. I'll play around with that when we come back from uploading our cupcake. Now, the cupcake, we're going to upload a number of times, but we're going to manipulate it in different ways. So each time you upload, you're going to remove the background. And then for this one here, we're going to leave it as a whole cupcake shape. So this is going to be the back of our cupcake. So you're just going to choose that single layer so that it is just one black or dark image, and we're going to call it cupcake background. So this is going to be the piece that is on the back of our cake topper. We go to upload again. We're going to upload image, we're going to browse, and we're going to choose the cupcake. This time, we're going to get rid of the background again, because we're going to do that each time. And now we're going to get rid of all of the components on the inside of the cupcake, so that we are left only with that dark, black, heavy background. This is going to be the very front of our cupcake. So it's going to be the gold glitter cardstock that we're going to use. So we're going to name that cupcake outline top and upload, and then resize. You can change the color of that because it's going to be the gold top. And just as an arbitrary number, I've chosen to make the width of each of our pieces 10 to start with, and then we'll work from there. Now, repeat that again. We're going to upload a cupcake, and we're going to start off with deleting the background. And this time we're going to actually use our eraser. Now, our eraser is going to get rid of any of the lines that we don't want. So for this one in particular, we are creating the foam of our cupcake. So what I want to do is get rid of all of the icing or the frosting components. So I'm getting rid of the thick black lines just in the top part of our cupcake. We don't have to worry about the bottom, because when we click on that preview single layer, you'll see that all of that base, because we haven't got rid of any of those background areas, it's all flat and black. So it's going to cut as one whole piece. So it looks like a cupcake that is just missing its grooves, I guess. And we're going to call this one Cupcake Foam. I've just made that white, and then I've moved them around so that we've now got the top component at the top, the foam in the middle, and the back at the back. All right, uploading again. This time we're going to start with selecting, getting rid of our background. And now we're going to erase. And I'm going to just increase the eraser size because I'm trying to get rid of a fair chunk of this. And what I want to do is actually get rid of the whole bottom of the cupcake. Now, what I'm trying to do is create the acetate layer. And the acetate layer is just going to be where the frosting is on our cupcake. So I just want the top layer. Now, I don't want to go right up to that black edge. Next layer, it's not going to be a huge drama if you don't get it, but I want to go as relatively close. The reason I don't want to go right up to there because I don't want to ruin it. So because the acetate is clear, it will, and it's going to sit underneath our exact, but I'm going to try my hardest to get fairly close. And I mean, the good thing about this is that we're using a round eraser and it's a curved edge. So trying to get around that icing isn't too bad. Looks like a little bit of a nibble, but she'll be okay. And then we're just going to use that eraser tool just to get rid of the bottom layer of the cupcake. Do a preview single layer. Make sure that it is as close to the shape as you want it. And then apply and continue, and we're going to call that cupcake acetate. Make sure you do that preview single layer just to make sure that all of those bits that you have thought you've rubbed out down the bottom are all gone as well, because we're trying to rub out or erase a white background. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky to see against the checkerboard. So just use that preview single layer just to make sure that you've got all of those bits gone that you wanted. I've just made that a grey colour because obviously you can't have a clear, but I've just made it grey, and then I can see that that's going to be a for the acetate layer. You can play around with the alignment as well just to make sure that it does all sit together. It's a little bit tricky because you've got different components, so it's not just one sitting on top of another that's all of the exact same shape, but just to make sure that you're on the right track anyway. And then we're going to do a final upload, and this time we're going to erase everything except for the base of the cupcake. So I just use the eraser, the background tool to start with, because then I just have to get rid of any of those lines. So I'm just going to try and make it as close to that wave as possible. And then I'm going to save it, and I'm going to save it as the cupcake liner, I think. Now with the liner, I put in the width of 10, but then when I put it over the top, you can see it's much bigger. And that's because the width of the actual cupcake liner is a little bit smaller than the top of the cupcake. So its width actually isn't exactly 10. So that's just a bit of a play around, just to make sure. And then you're going to align everything center horizontally, make sure nothing's really sticking out, and it looks like a perfect cupcake. Next thing we're going to do is move around our happy birthday. Now I want to do an offset on this. So I'm just going to, first of all, have a look at what it's going to look like on the cupcake itself, on the cake topper, so that I can see how it's going to sit. I want it kind of sitting on the right-hand side of the cake topper. So it's kind of sitting off the cake topper. And so it's just a matter of playing around, seeing how your sizing goes, seeing where you want it to sit and if it'll sit nicely. And then I'm going to do an offset. And my offset's going to be that sparkly silver. Your cake topper should be about the size of your smallest tier. So if you're just making one cake or a double cake, a lot of cake tins are about 20 centimeters, 24 is probably the regular one that you might buy at the supermarket. So I'm making this one to fit about 20 centimeters. But if you've got a smaller tier at the top, you make it the cake topper the size of that smallest tier. All right, so I've put the happy birthday on an angle there, and I'm just trying to move it around, keeping in mind that I don't want it to be too wide. So then I highlight the whole thing and I can see that the width is about 18. So I'm not going over the top, but I am now going to add an offset. I'll change the color of my happy birthday. It's going to be pink. It's going to be a nicer pink than the default color. And then I'm going to do an offset. So I'm going to do a 0.5 centimeter offset on this. And then I'm going to hit the contour because I don't want any of those holes in the inside. And then I'm going to hide all contours. And then I'm going to change the color to a grey because I'm going to do a silver, a really shimmery, nice glitter cardstock as the background of my happy birthday. So the next step is to go to make, and then we're going to go through the process of making after we've saved, obviously. I'm going to save it as our cupcake cake topper. And then we're going to go through the make process, and because we've got different kinds of materials that we are using, I'm going to show you all of the different settings that we need to use for each of our different materials. So you can see here that we've got a number of different mats. Now, I'm really a advocate for trying to put things on the same mat. But for this one, because we've got so many different materials, I'm not even going to mess with it. I'm just going to run each of these seven mats. I'm going to run each of them as they are. If you wanted to, you could actually put all of those regular cardstocks together and the glitter cardstocks together. But as I said, I'm not really going to mess with it. So the first one I'm doing is the acetate layer. So once I click on the acetate layer, I'm going to go to browse all materials and I'm just going to type in acetate. I'm not sure what the foil acetate is, so I'm just going to choose regular acetate. I find it very interesting that Cricut, because they're Cricut acetate, it doesn't actually have it as a Cricut branded material. It's just a fine point blade. It's a very thin piece of plastic. So yeah, you don't need to change blade. For mat number 2, I'm doing a foam. So I'm just going to click on craft foam. I assume that's what it is. So we're going to have a go at that one. And you can see here that I've got to load the deep point blade for that. We did that in our last video when we did the magnets, and I'll show you how to change the blade again. But yeah, it is just a matter of changing that blade. Then for the happy birthday, we've got a glitter cardstock, and we're going to do the same option for the outline of our cupcake. You just need a fine point blade. So the deep point blade is only going to be used for foam. So once you've changed your blade for the foam, you've got to make sure you change it back and you don't use the heavier blade. And then finally, for our cardstock ones, we're just going to use a medium cardstock. With the clear acetate, I'm going to first of all cut the acetate before I do anything else. The reason I'm going to do that is because I am only going to use a small amount, and you've got to take the whole protective film off before you start cutting it. So I thought if I cut it down to size so that it just cuts out the top of the cupcake. So I'm just using my Cricut trimmer to do that. And then I'm going to remove the protective film from the top. And then straight away, I'm going to put it straight onto my standard grip mat. The instructions inside the machine, inside the packet, have said just to use a standard grip mat. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to put it straight onto there before I remove the second layer of the protective film, just to reduce the amount of opportunity for there to be scratches, because I really don't want there to be scratched acetate before I use it for my project. So I've just run the acetate through the machine, and now just like with cardstock, I'm going to flip over my grip mat before trying to pull it off. I just don't want it to lift and bend, so flip it over so then we can let gravity do most of the work when trying to get the acetate off the grip mat. Just to put the foam down on our grip mat, I'm going to first of all use a strong grip mat. This will make sure that the foam stays down when it's going through the cutting machine. But then I'm just, for extra reassurance or insurance, I'm going to use my brayer tool to make sure it's stuck down, and then I'm going to use masking tape, just like we did in last week's tutorial. If you want to go and check that out, it was Love Me to My Bones magnet. To cut our foam, we do need to change our blade. So I have just removed the fine point blade from the B clamp of my Cricut Maker 3 and replaced it with a deep point blade, and then closed up the clamp, making sure that I hear a click before I move on. So I'm just going to check here that the foam has actually cut all the way through. Before I click on the flashing arrows, I'm just going to grab my weeding tool to just lift up that foam to make sure that it lifts up. And then I know, when I know that it's done, then I'm just going to release it hitting that flashing arrow. So I'm just going to remove the foam from the mat. So just removing all of that masking tape, and you'll see that some of it is actually not cut through, and it seems to be just in those little spots where there's a bit of a curve. So all I'm going to do is use a scalpel blade, or I think they call it an X-Acto knife, or a little craft knife. And I'm just going to use that to just cut through those little sections like at the point of the cupcake. You'll see there that some of the foam has actually come off with the masking tape, so just be gentle when you're pulling it off. If you try and pull it too quickly, you might just lift a little bit of that, which we don't want to do. All right, so now that we've cut all of those, now it's time to start putting our cake topper together. So I'm just going to use some craft glue. This is my Montmartre craft glue that I got from Shiploads. It's got a really fine tip on it, which is great, except it does clog up easily. So I do have to use just a little pin to just get rid of some of that gunk inside the hole that the glue comes out of. But then I'm just going to just run a little bit of glue all the way along, and I'm going to use my tweezers to just flip that over and stick the pink writing to the silver backing. Now that I've done the happy birthday and it looks really awesome, the next step is now to start layering the actual cupcake. So as you know, because we've cut out so many layers of that cupcake, we now need to put them all back together. So I'm going to start with the acetate layer. I'm just going to run my craft glue around the edge of the foam component of that, just so that I know that the glue is just going along the edge and I haven't added stuff to the acetate that I didn't need to. Then I'm going to layer over the purple cupcake liner, and I'm actually going to put the glue on the cardstock this time, and then line it up. So you can see that the acetate, we've got the foam first, acetate, followed by the purple cupcake liner, and I'm just going to press that down, and the glue actually absorbs into that foam really nicely. So you don't get a lot of that mushing out like we did when we made the card for my dad a couple of weeks ago. Oh, I found the dot for the eye. So I'm just adding the dot for the eye on the happy birthday, just adding a little bit of glue to that. Again, it's one of those pesky things that the little dots disappear, and if you somehow, I probably wouldn't have even noticed it until it was too late anyway. All right, next step is now to put the top layer of our cake topper over the top. So this is actually the outline, I guess, of our cupcake. So this is in the glittery gold. And I'm just running a little bit of glue around all sections of this so that we make sure that all parts of it are really stuck down nicely, because the worst thing would be if that just started lifting halfway through our process or even after we put it on our cake. So that would suck. So it's just a matter of really making sure that you line it up really nicely so that we can't actually see all of the different layers. And then you can see there that I've actually run it a little bit along that acetate. So I'm just going to use a wet wipe to wipe that off in a second. But otherwise, it all seems to have stuck down really well. Just running my finger along all of those parts where I've added some glue, just to make sure that it's staying down. It's looking so good. I'm loving it already, and I haven't even added the sprinkles yet. All right, now comes the fun bit. So now that I've stuck all of those front components down, I'm just going to flip my cupcake upside down. So now you can see that the foam is facing upwards. So our acetate's on the base, and we've now got this 2mm, because we know that it's 2mm because the packet of foam told us that the thickness of the foam was 2 millimeters. And now I'm just going to add some sprinkles. Oh, yay, that's a little bit more much. And what I've found is these bigger ones are way too fat. So I'm going to take each of these bigger ones out and leave all of the other stuff. Now, these sprinkles are from Spotlight, and they're cool. I bought these for my partner. It was her 40th last year, and we had a neon-themed party. So these were her neon-themed sprinkles. But being me, I bought 2 bottles of it just in case, and so I haven't even touched these ones yet. So I'm just going to use my tweezers here to just get rid of all of those little, or the actual big balls, I guess, out of here so that it's a bit flatter, because already it's going to be a bit thicker than that 2 millimeters, because you've got some of those other little sprinkles are a bit bigger, but these ones are just too massive. So I'm just going to get rid of all of them first, and then I can put my pink card backing down. I don't think I'm even going to use these stars, glitter stars from Spotlight. I mean, they'd be cool, but I think there's so many colours in our sprinkles bottle here that I don't know that it's just going to make any difference. So I think for now, may as well just save a little bit of cash, I suppose, and I might use them for a different project, but I'm going to leave them for now. Now that I've got enough sprinkles in there, my next job is, well, really, it's nearly the final job, I guess, is to stick down the backing. So I've got that pink, bright pink card, which is the backing of our cake topper. And so I'm just going to use some craft glue, and I'm going to go around the edge of this cupcake, making sure that there's glue on, particularly on the top component, and then just running a little bit of extra glue on the inside of our cupcake liner area. Then I'm going to grab that pink cardstock and stick that down. Now, that was a good theory, wasn't it, everyone? But it's not staying down. So those little baubles are a bit too big for this cake topper. So the craft glue isn't staying stuck down. So if I was to clamp it, I think it would be fine. But because I'm not clamping it and I'm just pressing it down, it's only staying stuck down on the on the liner bit, and then everything else is just lifting. All right, so I think I'm going to have to go with plan B. I think the best thing to do here, now, full disclosure, I've never made this before. So I'm showing you what it would look like if you just kind of read a couple of instructions and was winging it. But you can see there how it's lifting. So I think what I'm going to have to do is grab my hot glue gun. Because it's hot glue, and hot glue is like genius, but also because it's nearly an instant stick. The only thing I hate about hot glue is the stringiness, but I think for this project, we're just going to have to deal with it, because I don't think there's any other option to help it to stay down. And I'm actually quite happy because it is the back, it's not the front of the topper. So I'm just going to lift a little bit, add some hot glue, and push down. So I'm just going to go around and re-glue that. I can see some marks, but I think for my first go, and look, I'm making a mistake, so you don't have to. So embrace it. Have yourself a little giggle, because some of you are probably sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, that was an obvious thing to do. But, I'm learning and teaching all at the same time, and that's a really good thing to do, because not everyone knows everything. So I'm just pressing that down, pulling out those little bits of hot glue that have seeped out a little bit, and pulling away any of the string stuff, and then I'll just flip it over. Oh my gosh, it's working! Look at this! Look at it shake! Oh. Okay, so the same things happened on the other side. So craft glue and foam don't mix. They're not going to stay stuck down. So hot glue straight away. You could probably even you might be able to use, I don't know, glue tape maybe. But look, as soon as I've used that hot glue, the rainbows have come out. The clouds are parted and the world is a better place. So I think just go straight for the hot glue and go along those edges and stick them down, so then we don't get any of those little sprinkles escaping. And again, as you're sticking it down and things are drying, just pull away any of those little sticky flyaways or anything that's seeped out. Just pull it out and get rid of it. And now look. Oh, yes. That's heaps better. Oh my goodness. I'm so proud of this. As I said, I've not done this before. So there it is. It's shaken around. And now our final thing to do is just to use some foam tape to stick down that happy birthday. So like we did with our golfer card, I'm just using the foam tape just to make the happy birthday pop up off our cupcake. Because look, it'd be fine if you just stuck it straight down, but just makes it a little bit more eventful, I suppose, a little bit more exciting. And it makes it look like you've put a little bit of extra effort and extra thought into it. So I'm just going to use some foam tape, and I keep flipping it back over onto my cupcake just to see where to put that foam tape and how much to put down, because you don't want not enough so that it kind of sits a bit too flat in most of the places, but you also don't want to put a whole heap of tape down when it's not actually going to stick to anything because it's hanging off the edge of the cupcake. So this is all about you and your placement and how you want it to look. So add as much or as little foam tape as you need, and then just remove the backings and stick it down onto our cupcake. It looks so cute. I love how it pops out, and it just makes it look a little bit more festive and stand out. So our final step is to just add our skewers. So these are really fat skewers that I think I got from Coles ages ago. I've used them for kebabs. But you can, if you wanted to, you could buy some from Spotlight. They're like the lollipop sticks. You can get them. But skewers are fine. They're cheap. And if you wanted to, you could decorate those or even cut them down so that your cake topper sits right on top of the cake that you've created. For me, I'm just going to stick them kind of halfway up the back of the cupcake liner. I'm going to use hot glue. I'm not even going to experiment with anything else. I thought about using sticky tape, but I think the hot glue is going to work instantly and easily. Now, the last thing you could do, if I was going to sell this, I would probably put a back on it. And now that I really think about it, I would actually cut the foam so that those skewers sit inside the foam as well. So it would be like a little rectangle inside the pink foam layer where I could stick the skewers so I wouldn't have them sticking out the back like that. So there are two options you could try. I might have a go at it and maybe turn it into a bit of a short on the channel just to show what I mean by cutting the rectangles, just to hide them, because I mean they're not ugly. They're not so ugly that it ruins the whole thing, but it does give that little bit of more of a finish that we might be looking for, and makes it a little bit more magical, I suppose, if you can hide those skewers. People would be like, how does that fit into the cake? I don't understand. So up to you how you want to finish that off. All you would need to do is, if you're just going to put another layer of card on the back of that, you would just need to recut the pink layer and then maybe just use some foam tape to stick it on, because if you tried to use, say, hot glue or something to try and stick it right down, you'd still end up with a pocket. So maybe just a bit of foam tape would be fine. Oh my gosh, I am obsessed with this. Isn't it so cute? I just love how those things shake about. And the glitter card has just made that whole thing pop, particularly the happy birthday. So it was a little bit complicated to create the cuts, but once you've cut it, it's not really at all a complicated thing, but it has so much impact and it really stands out on your cake. If I was you, I would just get right into this project. Find anyone who's having a birthday that you can offer to create a cake topper for, because these are very, very cute and a great way of celebrating. Hope you've enjoyed that. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week with our new project.